So before we get started, the Village of Anmore would like to open our meetings by recognizing the many Indigenous peoples of our area, including the following First Nations with communities that are located in the region that we now know as Metro Vancouver: Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam. Further, we would like to honor the important place in history occupied by the many territorial keepers of these lands and waters around us since time immemorial. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda, recommendation. Someone move the recommendation? Move the agenda? Moved. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Public input. Anybody like to make any public comments on the agenda items? Time limit of 2 minutes. Okay. Come on. If you could state your name and address, please. Oh, can you push the, yeah. Is it blue?
There it goes. We have the same problem with the mics in our council chambers all the time. Anyway, I'm speaking as a private citizen and president of the Pleasant Community Association. I noticed on the agenda you have something to do with the Anmore South project and a process. And so I just wanted to comment on the process. I'm not going to comment on the project itself, just the process. I did look at some recent correspondence from the developer, and I was a little concerned that they were, yeah, I know, I'm trying to be fast, a little concerned that they were threatening to abandon the project. We all need housing. Housing is really important. I'm not going to argue about that. But with that comes the necessary infrastructure, whatever that is, including transportation in particular. Burt Flynn would require, if you wanted to go through there as one of the routes, would require a referendum, which would not happen until 2026. So I just want to be really clear about that, to share that with you. And Ioko Road is already in some cases on the point of being way over capacity. So I just want to support, I think, the staff process. I know that it may be a little longer than the developer wants, but I think this kind of a major significant change in Anmore requires good processes, good communication, and good engagement with the community, including the neighboring communities. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public input? Okay. See none, we'll move on. And we have no delegations. Minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 20th. Can I get someone to move those minutes? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none, all those in favor? Opposed, carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from the minutes? No, see none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to, any members of council like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
B and C.
B and C. Anything else? No? Okay. Could I get someone to move the consent agenda? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to 7B, Government of BC Emergency and Disaster Management Act Implementation, Indigenous Engagement Requirements Funding Program. Councillor Richardson.
So this is primarily for the benefit of the audience. I looked into this when I saw it because I didn't have a clue what it was. And I don't think we have any active Indigenous activities in the province or in the municipality. But it is 40 to 65 grand, and you don't have to apply for it. And my understanding is we have sent the letter, we are going to get the money, and we are going to cooperate with neighboring municipalities to find a good way to spend it. Is that correct?
Ms. Elrick?
Thank you, through the chair. So under the new Emergency and Disaster Management Act, which has replaced the previous Emergency Program Act, there are requirements for engagement with First Nations embedded in the legislation now. So this funding is intended to help communities with that new requirement. So Anmore's portion will be $40,000. We will be signing the funding agreement in advance of the March 31st deadline. And yes, we have been communicating with our regional neighbors in the Tri-Cities and the villages on trying to find a project that we could jointly engage with our First Nations.
So, anything further? Councilor? Okay, so could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to 7C, Metro 2050 Type 2 Proposed Amendment, City of Maple Ridge, Yendon Lands.
So I'm also in support of this, but again, it's a very useful example. This is where the urban containment boundary is being expanded into lands. What's interesting about it is it's a very small piece, and the piece is actually already surrounded by the urban containment boundary. And for the residents that are interested in this, because it's a topic for Anmore these days, there is a Metro Vancouver tool, which is the urban containment boundary map, and you can zoom in down to the ditch. So you can find out every single little detail, and it's a very interesting thing to do if you're interested, so I highly recommend it.
Good. Could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved, seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, we'll now move on to number 11A, motion to discuss and decision on Anmore procedure bylaw review, submitted by Councillor Cryer, seconded by Councillor Weber for discussion. Councillor Cryer. Sure.
Okay, I'll speak to this.
Oh, no, sorry, hold on. Whoa, I got ahead of ourselves here, sorry. We're on to 9A, Water Rates and Regulations Bylaw Amendment. Sorry about that. So report dated March 15th, 2024 from Manager of Financial Services attached. So could I get someone to move the recommendation? Move, seconded. I'll open up for discussion. Councillor Richardson and then Councillor Weber.
So I'm okay with the increase in the cost of water. I'm a little surprised that the project to redo all the water meters, which I believe was to save money, is mentioned in here. So I'm curious a few things. One, how much more do we have to spend in order to complete the project? Will it actually start to save money, and will water rates go down the following year? Please.
Thank you for those questions. I will start with the water meter program. The water meter program is funded from capital. It's not from operating. However, the fees that are collected under the water rate bylaw are used to allocate to capital reserves so that we may continue to improve our water systems. Now, the water meter to property line is ongoing. There were quite a few properties that had the meter boxes installed in the houses instead of at the property line. So that will continue until we're doing just a few of those per year. However, the replacement of the census system with a Neptune system, those water meters are mostly purchased, and now we're at the install phase. So those will happen over last year, this year, and potentially a little bit more next year. That will still come out of capital. The increases we're seeing for water are mostly due to inflationary costs, and those inflationary costs start from Metro Vancouver. They're seeing an 8.2% increase in their base rate increase, and then we get our water through the city of Port Moody. They will also add their inflationary costs to that, and then our rate increase overall is actually only 3% at 9 cents.
Councillor Weber.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I support the 3% increase. I think that's fairly reasonable. Sadly, I think we're all going to be saving money on water this year because there's going to be some pretty big bans given our lack of snowpack. I just had a question about, in the bylaw, it says remove section 39. What's the reasoning for that? And is there anything else changing in the bylaw?
Through the chair, Section 39 referenced an act that was repealed quite some time ago, and the legislation that now covers it is the Community Charter and Local Government Act, which we don't need to reference because it supersedes our bylaw.
Okay. Okay. And did anything else in the bylaw change, or is that everything's documented on this page, correct? Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Could I get someone to move the recommendation? Moved and seconded. I'll just have a couple comments. Just so, what Councillor Weber references the fact, yeah, we are already looking at water restrictions at Metro Vancouver. We're at about 38% of our snowpack. It's going to be a challenging year, and we are already going to be getting ahead of it because we aren't sure what's going to happen. And like a lot of municipalities, it's going to be a really tough year. Just so people are aware, Metro Vancouver wholesale rate of water is 93 cents this year a cubic meter. So that's the rate that almost every municipality gets water from and gets charged water as part of being in the water district. We are in the water district. Unfortunately, we signed an agreement with Port Moody, well, fortunately and unfortunately, before, what's the development, the hillside here in Port Moody. Heritage Mountain, before Heritage Mountain was built out. So we were charged a fee for electricity and also the pump and usage of their pipes. So we currently pay approximately, Port Moody charges us, they take the 93 cents, and for moving it through their pipes, they charge us about $1.37 cubic meter. Now that's going to go up, and we're at the mercy of Port Moody. So basically what that works out to, it's approximately $145,000 a year we as a municipality pay above what other municipalities pay, because they have the water delivered at a wholesale rate to their border and then distribute it, which again, we would love it delivered to our border, and we could distribute it, treat it as we do. We have chlorination things. So I am going to be bringing this up. We have a board workshop, and there's going to be a plentiful discussion on servicing. I know the North Shore is having a very big, they're going to be starting a discussion about the sewage and that. They're in a separate sewage area in regards to North Shore, and they're being faced a fairly significant bill for the North Shore wastewater treatment plant that has to be rebuilt. And again, you know, water, we have the same water that's being put into Metro Vancouver that's literally about a mile away at Bunsen Lake. So I will be bringing this up at the budget discussion. I think it's completely unfair, but I just want people to realize that this is basically $145,000 that we pay as a municipality as a premium that other municipalities don't pay because they get it at the wholesale rate right at their border. So, and I'm concerned the fact that as being a member of the water district, that isn't extended to us. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of make everybody aware of the numbers that are there. Ours is, we used to, in the past, we used to have certain water areas, and as new developments came on, and then they would take on the debt for the water system. Those have all been paid off now, so we're in one entire water system. So the $3.39 that we charge out a meter is a self-funding to cover all the replacement of pipes, chlorination, and all of that, but it's only within our borders. And then, of course, of that $3.39 is the $1.37 that we have to pay for Port Moody for it. So anyway, there you go. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to the 9B 2023 Anmore Solid Waste Management Bylaw Amendment, report dated March 15th from our Manager of Financial Services attached.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen.
Lena.
The solid waste fees and bylaw changes, the recommended option would be that council grants first, second, and third readings to the Anmore Solid Waste Management Bylaw 691-2024. So the collection service for Anmore is increased due to increases in expenses, tipping fees, fuel prices, and inflationary costs. Our collection contract expense also is increased. So we've increased our 2024 budget to reflect the actual cost that we paid in 2023 plus 3.6%, which is the CPI inflationary rate at December for Vancouver. And that's all it's been raised. Though I did want to point out that we're in audit right now, so the solid waste cart is kind of up and down between a deficit and a surplus, and we might come in pretty close. But I wanted to note that we spent $7,500 on replacing carts that was not budgeted for in the year, and we've seen our solid waste carts double in price since the last time we've raised rates on the carts. So we have two things changed in this bylaw. One is that the carts will be replaced if the contractor damages it, so that will still be replaced free of charge. However, if someone wants to replace a cart moving forward, if it's not looking good, or if a bear has attacked it or something, that would be the resident's responsibility, then they have the option to buy a new cart moving forward, instead of having a 2-year grace period.
Good. Then could I get someone to move and second the recommendation? Moved, second, open it for discussion. Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, okay. I'm completely fine with the 380 per year. I'm a bit surprised with the doubling of the cost of the bins. I looked around various municipalities and we are double the cost of other people's bins. And then the thing that kind of concerns me the most, and I understand why it's there are people who will replace their bins every 2 years. Now, I've had my bin for 8 years, I think it is. It's got some bangs and nicks, but what this policy says, if I replaced it yesterday, it would be for free, but now it's going to cost me $267, whatever it happened to be. And I think that's a bit unfair for people who have been sticking with their trusted bins and not replacing them. So I would propose either a grace period of a year or something like that, or rather than allowing every 2 years, maybe make it every 5 years that you get a free bin, because there is this motivation now that if I don't like my bin, I pay the GFR guy $100 to run over it, and then I can get it for free, and it could create the wrong motivation, right?
Any other
Thank you for
question?
that. I just wanted to clarify that the current bylaw states that if you have a new bin or a new development, you can replace it for free within the first 2 years. And after that, you would pay to replace your bin, not replacement every 2 years. So what we're finding is the newer bins are being replaced. And currently, the way the bylaw is set up, all residents are paying for those small amount of residents that want to replace their bin. Everybody pays for it. Whereas changing it will now say, if you want a new bin, then you can buy a new bin yourself, instead of having the rest of the residents pay for it for you.
Yeah.
So even then, I would be more accepting that everybody in Anmore gets one bin replacement in their lifetime to make it fair for all people.
That is a consideration. We would have to set up administrative support to track who has received a bin or not received a bin. Replacement of a bin, I think the bins were going for $260, something like that. We just got a quote actually from our supplier. So there are different ways to approach it, but there are additional costs involved to do that.
Good, and I think, this was one of the concerns that I had when we implemented this many years ago, when we went from Kevin Spence doing the pickup and that. We needed these bins. There was options with different prices to get different sizes, as well as the recycling in that, and I was always concerned with this caveat that we were going to maintain them for free and we were going to do that, because as people, I've had no issues with my garbage bins. I've been in this house for 7 years and they're still fine. Yeah, they're dirty, that's fine, but I clean them and that. So I'm fine with the way the bylaw is written now, and I think it speaks to the fact that if people want to switch their bins, then they can buy new ones if so be it, and whatever size they want. Because I think we had 3 different sizes at one point in time that all had different price ranges depending on how much garbage you were using. It was somewhat of a user pay. So any other comments? Councillor Trowbridge.
I'm a big fan of user pay as well. I don't think everyone should subsidize someone who's maybe not taking care of their stuff. So I'm fine with it the way it is.
Good. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now move on to 9C, Anmore South OCP Amendment, Neighborhood Plan, Terms of Reference. A report dated March 15, 2024 for our Manager of Development Services is attached. Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm before you today to talk about the terms of reference for Anmore South Neighbourhood Plan. as part of the background, we've been working with the applicant over the past month or so here to review the terms of references put forward by the applicant. And so we'll be going back and forth and refining the terms of reference. So the terms of reference that are before you today have been reviewed by staff and the applicant together and come to an agreement. This is a fair approach towards the terms of reference. The context. So I'll just go through the discussion piece here. Anmore South Neighbourhood Plan is a pivotal component in identifying how the area could transition from a rural special study area designation to a diverse neighbourhood that includes various land uses, community amenities, and urban development forms. This transition is outlined as a multi-phase process involving the OCP amendment, a Metro Vancouver application to change the current land designation from rural to general urban via an amendment to the regional growth statement, and the urban containment boundary. Just in comment with the regional growth statement, that's something that's already been included within the first reading of the OCP amendment that's been given first reading. However, that needs to be revised as this process goes forward. So as you see the second bylaw amendment come forward, you'll see the RGS amendment statement changed. But it'll be more global than just Anmore South. It'll include the rest of the village as well, because at the same time, we need to actually go back to Metro we have to go back to Metro Vancouver in relation to Metro 2050, which we signed on to roughly 2 years ago, I think it was now, and we have to do the updated statement as part of that process. So that's just something I just wanted to clarify as well. The neighbourhood plan, as developed by the applicant, will ensure detailed planning policies, infrastructure servicing, and community amenity requirements are well defined. The scope of work under the terms of reference include comprehensive biophysical, planning and infrastructure inventories, along with technical due diligence studies. These studies encompass environment, archaeology, geotechnical, and transportation assessments, among others. A detailed land use plan, transportation plan, and a range of technical studies will be prepared to support the preferred plan for the neighbourhood. So, as discussed at our previous council meeting and given endorsement, the robust communication and public engagement strategy will follow on with this plan and be presented to council and be endorsed by council. Sorry, it was endorsed by council at February 20th, 2024, the regular council meeting. This plan will be conducted collaboratively with the applicant and will utilize various strategies to ensure extensive community involvement and transparent communication. So just in clarification, the applicant actually in the terms of reference previously had another engagement strategy, but based upon the council meeting on the 20th, that was removed and replaced basically with the terms of reference as discussed previously and ratified previously. So council and staff involvement. The applicant will be working with village staff and consultants throughout the planning process. The staff will present the findings of the reports and engagement to council, regular council meetings. This will ensure concerns and aspirations are consistently understood and considered in the context of the neighbourhood plan. The terms of reference present a clear, structured approach to developing Anmore South lands, and staff have reviewed and provided feedback to the applicant, which have been considered and incorporated into this report for you today. That's it.
Good, thank you.
I haven't read the option.
I guess let's see if we can get the motion on
Yeah.
on the floor. If you could read the motion.
The draft neighbourhood plan, terms of reference in relation to bylaw 686-2023, attached to the report dated March 15th, 2024, for the Manager of Development Services be approved and staff be directed to work with the applicant in moving the consideration of the Anmore South OCP amendment application process forward.
Could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Open up for discussion on council. Councilor Weber.
Just make a few comments. You answered my question that this was obviously a collaborative process between Placemark and the village, because it's got Placemark all over it, right? So, I hope this is going to satisfy everybody. This is the kind of stuff that people have been asking me about, the detailed questions. I hope we can get this done in a reasonable amount of time. We've been kicking this around for a long time. I want to get a decision this term. So I hope we're all setting that as a goal. But there's a lot of information to go through. It's a lot of public consultation. There's a lot to digest for council. But this is encouraging. It is a lot of work. So, but I've looked through it. I like it. It's very thorough. Should give us everything we need.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Carr.
echo Councillor Weverink's comments that happy to see it, happy to see the collaboration. I think the document's very clear, and I look forward to getting started on it. And I agree, I hope it doesn't take too long and get through this and get people engaged. Thank you.
Councillor Richardson.
I have a slightly different take than the others. I don't think it's been that long. We've been kicking this around since Brilliant Circle. So it's been multiple years, and this actually application has only been going on for like 7 months. I do have a concern that the neighborhood plan is coming across as a sales document. So there's lots of statements in there that kind of push something forward in a positive way, and there is no real fact behind that. So, for example, village objective and needs. The only needs assessment that this village has ever done is a housing needs assessment. So the rest of it is just flowers and stuff to go around it. I think if we do it, it should be absolutely factual without all the spin. Like a more healthy and complete community. Okay, are we not healthy? Are we not complete? What makes us complete? These are, again, these buzzwords that drive me nuts. Like, it's either this or it's that, but not these. Throughout this document, it says it's consistent with the OCP. It's not consistent with the OCP. Our current OCP says we limit ourselves below 5,000. If we look at the regional growth statement, it says we limit ourselves to 4,100 people by 2041. This proposal is not consistent with the OCP. I'm okay if you say it's consistent with the amendment, or we're going to amend the OCP, but to say these things are done, it's not done. And then the biggest issue I have, and it's come up before that people say like I'm trying to find out ways not to make it happen. That's not true. I want to see if it can happen. So for me, is it fiscally good for the village? Completely unclear to me. Can it be fiscally built by Icona at a price point that addresses any of the affordability or living conditions that are available? I don't see that. I've been looking around at the other developments going on. This is a very tough site to build. I don't see how you get it below $1,000 a square foot, which is Icona's current proposal. From a traffic point of view, it was even just said here now, Ioka Road is probably a non-starter. So what is a solution? The traffic study comes after everything's done to see what the effect is. The traffic study can be done today. You don't need the shape of the houses, the doors, and the way the numbers look on the buildings to say it's going to be between 3,100 and 4,000 units or whatever it is with this many people. That could be done today to really see what the roadblock is. It might be that Burt Flynn has to be done, but that can start today. And then the other thing, I understand the collaborative nature, and it's good, but who's doing the studies? Is this a regurgitation of the studies from the OCP amendment application by Icona, or is Anmore doing their own studies independent of Icona? Because I get worried about the applicant putting their spin on the studies. And that really concerns me. So this is a draft, which is going to get attached to another kind of draft. When does this become official? How do you make modifications to it? Like, how do I get the traffic study to be in first phase rather than third phase?
I mean, this is why they're a term of reference, because it's a way that we're trying to organize the plans that we're looking to complete, as in the applicant is going to complete them. So let me answer a few questions for you. In relation to who does the number crunching, as you kind of put it, it is the applicant, and it is the village's job then as the consultancy team as well attached to the village, who will then go through the plans and review them and say, hey, how did you get to this number? What was the justification behind this number? And make sure that the numbers which are attached to any report or any kind of decision or fact that they put into a report, that it's vetted through independent consultants, that they say, hey, well, we don't think this is quite correct, or we agree with this number, or this one might not be correct. We think it should be this number. So they would go back and rework it and give us the justification of how they got to their number. So that's how we vet the studies as it goes forward. So they are vetted for definitely for factuality of what's put in front of us. It isn't that we get a report and be like, oh, that's nice, we'll accept that. is very much, it is vetted through our independent consultants as well. And then when it comes to the transportation study, it's a little bit more complex than, hey, how many units are you going to have? There's other policies which go with it, which will dictate how traffic will move as well. So to give you some kind of example of that, it would be that you could put in a policy saying that you're only required to have 0.25 parking stalls per person or per unit in the facility. Or you could say it needs 2 units per unit. Obviously, there's drastic changes, but that is a land use policy that you have to decide upon and move it forward. So that's why you can't go straight to the transportation plan at the beginning. There is a bit of a process to get there, but it's something in the middle that we can start getting going on those application pieces.
Just on that though, by doing a comprehensive study now, you would know the current road capacities on what they can actually support. So when you actually do the neighborhood plan, you would go, the maximum it ever could be is 0.5, or it could be 2, or it could be 0. Like sometimes when I think about what should be down there, it should be an old age home where nobody drives and the only people coming and going are the support staff. And they're opposite of the typical rush hour. And it would be a bunch of jobs. Like, that's how you get rid of cars, or you actually ban cars altogether. But from a market perspective, Icona's not going to go for that. At least I don't think they're going to go for that. And when we talk about commuting out of our various neighborhoods, like we say, Port Moody is great. Well, they have like 95% of the people leave Port Moody. We are 98% leave Anmore. But, you know, it's the same number to me, 98, 97, it's all the same. So I don't see why traffic, at least from a concept point of view, can't be done now, and I highly recommend it. Like, I don't think I can say yes to this without some work done up front. Even their economic analysis, which says we get this windfall of $700,000, ignoring CACs, it doesn't hold water. So is this thing feasible or not? What can you build a building for? Like if you're building a building on Murray Street, it's $1,000 a square foot, but it has sewer, has roads, has water, has stormwater, has electrical, gas, and everything at the lot line.
Councillor Richards, just if we can just stick to the terms of reference on that. So,
Right? So is it economically feasible? And that could be done today.
I'll give one response to that. That's not the village's responsibility to prove out. That is for the applicant to prove out, and that's what these studies will show. And
good. Thank you. Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, just I'll try and keep it brief. Couple of comments. You know, I'm excited that we're finally moving forward. I'm very confident that the terms of reference are in line with accepted practices throughout throughout the Lower Mainland. So I'm not going to question staff on that. I know that you've gone through the process of finding out how these things are done and have worked with the applicant to make sure we're doing all the processes that are appropriate. So I'm good with that. You know, I'm comfortable with the order of things. I agree with Councillor Weverink that it'll be nice to see a neighborhood plan so we have something to understand context. I'm not here to pontificate about affordability or define what that is for people. I think the open free market defines affordable. The product either can sell or it can't sell. And in today's market, typically it's more about size than price per square foot. You have a more affordable housing option and an alternative housing type if the size goes down. One of our handicaps to becoming, quote, a complete community is that we have barriers to entry for young families, given that our houses are typically, not all, but typically very large, and as a result of being large, also very expensive. So I applaud the concept. I also am hoping that we'll see the augmenting of our tax base by an extra $750,000 a year. That will cover almost a third of our budget, operating budget, a half almost, and it's in a that, as I understand it, is revenue in addition to our regular tax base annually. So, that's a win-win. I see it as potentially, if the development goes forward as I hope something does, I see it as subsidizing all of us that want to stay in this part of Anmore and live in those big unaffordable houses. So, yeah, I'm pretty enthusiastic that you guys have done a good job and defined things, and we can start moving ahead. I don't, when we speak about facts, I've never heard any facts relative to opposition to this development, nothing but conjecture about things like traffic and things that nobody has defined. So I think the concept of moving through these elements are going to give us our facts, and they'll give us the things that we sit in judgment on. So I'm excited.
Good. I just have a few comments I'd like to make in closing. Mr. Boyd, what part of the neighborhood plan was at the request of Metro Vancouver?
So, Metro Vancouver, we've been consulting with Metro Vancouver regarding the RGS statement, and not so much about the amendment process at this point in time. Actually, they're kind of both in one and the same thing. I shouldn't say that. Metro Vancouver have asked that when this comes forward, that there's a certain amount of information. Some of the information that they really want to know about would be the service inside of this development and for the municipality going forward, such as if we were to move forward with the development and it was to be serviced by Metro Vancouver sewer, they want to know that if we build a sewer, is it sized correctly for the village for the next 100, 150 years? Not just this development, but they're looking long term as an engineering kind of jurisdiction would. Same with the water. The other piece that they asked for was to talk about transportation and transportation planning on how would this work with the regional network. From a Metro Vancouver perspective, they're not looking at it from traffic per se, but more about moving people through with multimodal transportation, such as park systems, connecting cycling networks and what have you together as well. So they're the kind of general things that Metro Vancouver want to know about as well as everything else that will be included in the transportation plan.
So they're wanting to know, in layman's term, a business case for providing the servicing, the significant metro services to the area.
Yeah, they want to know about the servicing because they need to understand what impact will happen to their network and what infrastructure upgrades might be required to service Anmore into the future. So a good example is there's a pump station within Port Moody just across from Inlet Park that Metro Vancouver has some concerns about capacity as of today. And so they're looking at it as in, well, if we add additional flows, what will that do to our pump station? An analysis will have to be conducted to understand, do we have to make a new pump station? Can we just change out pumps? What's the cost association? Because obviously, whatever that this development might cause for cost increases, Metro Vancouver will be asking the village, per se, to cough up that amount of money to make sure that the infrastructure is constructed correctly to be able to service it into the future and not cause a detriment to their existing system.
So I'm just going to, it's going to lead me to a question later on, but one of the questions I had was on the neighborhood plan, or in the Anmore South neighborhood plan. It's page number 58, and there's listed out proponents' professional consulting teams' expertise. And I looked through a few of them. Geopacific, top of their class. Bunt and Associates for transportation. We've used them when the middle school went in. They do great work. Apple and Martin, again. The one thing was, and it gets back to what Councillor Richard was talking about, the cost recovery analysis and land economy, Van Struth Consulting Group. Van Struth did our, basically it was a financial sustainability report back in, I think, 2015. And it was very high level, and it basically just sort of told everybody that we were we could no longer sustain financially if we kept developing in the way that we are. So, but I do know in the last two developments that we had coming forward, we had the Cordovato ones and we had infill, pretty significant, infill. I think we're up to close to 10. We had JP Rollo come in, and they did a very, very detailed analysis, and it was very interesting, especially with the infill. that they even came back a second time because people were going, well, where did this $150,000? And I forget the gentleman's name that was there, but he was able to answer every question. He did such detail comparisons with Maple Ridge and stuff. And I can't highly hope that we're going to be instructing JP Rollo to do a financial analysis, because that's really going to dictate what the services is going to cost, how many units are going to need, what, all those sorts of things. So I do like to see that that's near the beginning, and you're nodding your head, so JP Rollo will be the contractor that the village is
Correct.
doing. So
Yep.
will they do their own analysis, or will they just check what has been done?
As of right now, they'll be checking the proponent's
Okay.
information and vetting the proponent's information, because it's an applicant-led applicant-led neighborhood plan, so we would be vetting all the information.
Okay.
Now, if council wanted to instruct staff to go ahead and do their own independent analysis, that's something that we could do.
Maybe that will be something that we look at, and because again, it is the key component to verify all the numbers that we've been hearing about. I just wanted to touch base on the traffic and that as well. You know, I think people shouldn't fool themselves. The north side of Port Moody is going to, with the new provincial dictate, can turn a lot of those lots into fourplexes pretty quickly. So there's going to be a significant amount of cars on that, on Ioko Road. And again, I will stress that Ioko Road does have a right-of-way for 4 lanes through the whole thing, through easements as well as right-of-ways. And I have confirmed that. So it isn't part of the MRN road network. And I can also tell you that a different development in Coquitlam, which had traffic issues, because it seems like any major development has traffic issues, was Fraser Mills. And so when they got to this level, the proponent put forth a shuttle bus system. So Fraser Mills is right on the water in Coquitlam, in an industrial area, which has been converted now. And they're going to be transiting people, putting up their own specific shuttle bus service from the site to the SkyTrain station. I forget the name of it, right at the bottom north. Is that Braid? Yeah, yeah. So there is ways around it. You know, I've talked to members of Port Moody Council, and you know, they do have a big traffic problem as it is, I think most of us that drive through there. Even with the David Connector, it's still not going to solve the problem in Port Moody. It's still going to back up. So we need to get people, the key thing is getting people out of their cars and using transit. So I just wanted to make those couple of comments. So with that being said, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to new business, which is a motion to discuss the Anmore procedure bylaw review. And I'm going to put it right over to you, Michelle, if you'd like to talk to this.
I think this was put on the last agenda, brought forward by Councillor Creer, seconded by Councillor Weverink. And if Councillor Creer would like to provide some introductory statements, she can do so at this time.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I brought this on the agenda at our last meeting simply because we have so much going on in the village. We have the new hub. We're going to be getting a new fire hall, Anmore South, Spirit Park renovation. And it's been since, I believe, 2016 since we looked at the procedure bylaw, and there's so many changes coming about. I just think it's a good time for us to make sure that we're up to date on everything. And I do think there are a few things specifically. I don't want to get into any details about it, but just a general overview. It's been 8 years to make sure everything is good and up to standard.
Good, yeah, and I think as well, it's well to be doing with the amount of changes the province has brought forth as well that needs to be updated. So so do we need someone to move and second it?
So it's been moved by Councillor Creer and seconded by Councillor Weverink. So we would just need.
Any discussion on it? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pratt. We now move on to Mayor's report. This past week we had the Saskatchewan Fire Trustee meeting. I can tell you that we're things are looking good in the fire department, and we're moving forward in regards to the design and getting a budget forward for the 2 new fire halls. I'd like to thank all the people who have reached out and had coffee with the mayor meetings. It's been a busy last couple of weeks, but they've been amazing. And it's been great to sit down with people and hear ideas, concerns, and sit down in a really casual way and kind of beat through a lot of the rhetoric that people seem to be believing and getting to it. And it's been really amazing. And so please don't stop. I encourage people. I make myself available. We did, I think, 3 last week, and had a really great meeting with the Malpasses and other people in that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Carmen does all the booking for it, and that we can facilitate different times of the day. So it's great it's such a pleasure having a new facility and being able to meet with people in the boardroom and have a meeting and that. So it's been amazing. I also wanted to tell you that this last weekend, I'll tell you the good weather certainly has effect on us, because we had both Saturday and Sunday, we had Bunsen Lake closures early in the day, 10 o'clock. I got a notice, and then 11 o'clock later. So it's, the weather is really, mid-March to have 21-degree weather, it's really, truly amazing. So anyway, the Bunsen Lake is getting full, and I think we'll be reaching out to, hopefully they can institute the parking program sooner than later, because otherwise we're going to have big issues here if the weather keeps going. And then just finally wanted to say, we have Easter this Saturday at noon. So last year it was absolutely next Saturday. Yeah, sorry, next Saturday. Last year it was raining sideways, and we had a record of kids show up. It was just absolutely amazing. So please, we're going to have it right here in the park, and then we're going to have some events inside here. So please come on out. The kids just love it. Grandkids, you name it. So I think last year we even had a little candy left over for council too. So it was actually quite good. So anyway, that's all I have for mayor's report. Any councilors' reports? Councilor Trowbridge.
Hopefully I don't feed back here. I just wanted to mention the fire trustee meeting from last week, Thursday, I think it was.
Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday?
Yeah.
It was quite encouraging. We had a fulsome discussion with our counterparts from Belcarra with respect to doing some research into how we might move forward with replacing the fire halls. So there was agreement to spend some money and bring some consultants into play, and we'll stay tuned. And as we learn things, one of us of the trustees will bring everything back to the council meetings and keep our residents informed.
Yeah, on that, the goal.
And those are public meetings, by the
Yeah,
way.
they are public, and we do post them on our webpage and that. We did, I think we had 3 members of Belcarra residents come to our last meeting that was here. Yeah. But the purpose of this is to get something with a budget affixed to it, or a preliminary budget, so we can then start using the election timing right now, which would be a good time to ask for money and that to get some commitment. So anyway, that's why the push is on right now, so we can have something sort of by mid to late summer, so that we can start seeing if we can get some funding through different political parties or promises. So, yeah. Do you have anything? No? Councillor Richardson.
Just for the public and for myself, I'd like to attend the trustee meetings, but I have never seen an announcement. I have no idea if they're coming. Yeah. So how do we get notice?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have just recently been getting the agendas from Metro, so we do post it on the village website under our calendar, and as well, the notice of the meetings is included in our weekly email notification that goes out on Mondays.
Good. Go ahead, Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, so through the chair, Karen, there was a lot of dancing of dates for this last one, because there were a number, we needed everyone to be present. There were a number of people, so if they were a little late in publishing, it was not their fault. It was to do with all the trustees. It was a bit like herding cats this time around.
Good. Okay, we'll move on to the Chief Administrator Officer's report. Ms. Elright.
Thank you. So, related to the Easter egg hunt that will be starting at noon on Saturday, March 30th, over here in Spirit Park and in the hub, there is some work continuing in Upper Spirit Park this week and next week. So, there will be some paving and plaza work that would be complete prior to that event. So, we can look forward to that. Um, Staff is also continuing to work through um, some policy work and fees and liability insurance requirements and all of those things related to use of the public spaces here in the hub. And we hope to be presenting something to council before the summer break that we can sort of get some direction back on or send to committees for review. And lastly, we'll be reminding everybody again, but we will be starting up Youth Bingo again. So the youth group is going to be starting the Youth Bingo again, and that will be at the end of April. So stay tuned for that. And we look forward to having everybody here at the hub.
Good. Thank you very much. We've got some some committee reports and minutes on 16B, general correspondence. You'll see the Metro Vancouver Board and Brief for meetings held on February 23rd, 2024. If you look at that brief, it goes right in there and talks about the Saskatchewan Volunteer Fire Department. So just so everybody is aware, Metro Vancouver, we pay them to manage our fire department. It's about $30,000 a year, I believe, roughly, and that. So they manage it. They take care of some of the insurance, take care of some of the HR aspects with our volunteers and that. So there, we had to go to them to release the money because they're the ones holding the funds, and that is a vote of two people, which is the two mayors of Anmore and Belcarra. So that passed unanimously. So those funds have been released and that. So anyway, I'll move on to public question period. Public question period. Yeah, please come on up. Yep, you have to come up and state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sam Budwani.
Whereabouts do you live, Sam?
68 Elementary. 68 Elementary Road.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe this was discussed already. I'm not sure. I came late, so my apology for that. I see there's lots of trees been cut on the village, Sunnyside Road, and I understand there's 37 some homes are coming there. And I see there's like hundreds and thousands of trees are been chopped there. So my question is, the sewer situation, how it's still going to be on the septic, or cities or village, I should say, is working on bringing the city line for sewer, and or how is that working?
We don't have sewer in Anmore at this point.
I know that.
They'll be all septic.
Yeah, but how would that work for that much, so many houses? But now should be called not a village. Now it's turning into, I bought my property and I moved here because I thought it's going to be, secluded place and nice and quiet place. But now it's getting, as a city, kind of, you know.
That I think you're referencing the Cordovado subdivision. That just they're
Yeah,
taking some
yeah.
trees out. Yeah, that subdivision has been in the books for probably 15 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're finally taking some trees down in that, but I think it's 18 homes.
18?
Pardon me? 19 homes, yeah.
19 homes. So
Okay.
still it will be on the sewer system and
It'll be
yeah,
all septic.
on the septic. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, thank you. That's what my
You're
question.
welcome. Okay. Next.
Nancy Maloney, 1724 East Road. Can you hear okay? Two questions. Related to Councillor Richardson's earlier question, my memory could be wrong, but my memory is that the most recent Saskatchewan Volunteer Fire Department meeting was actually held in camera. So I did see the notice.
A portion of it was, yeah.
Okay, so that is correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And if a
Second
meeting,
question.
okay, if a meeting is in camera, then, so when I looked at the notice, it seemed to imply there'd be no point in coming because of its in-camera nature.
That's your prerogative and that, but we had an open meeting and then we had to go in camera, yeah.
Okay, so there were two portions. Okay. my second question, um, many Canadian municipalities have already done what I'm asking about. So I would like to ask if council could request that staff discontinue using the honorific term of your worship. And you might ask, why this would be a desirable thing and why other Canadian municipalities are requesting that your worship not be used in council meetings. And the first reason that is usually given is that the term is actually a vestige of primarily British colonialism. And while that's part of my own particular background and heritage, it very seriously violates the present day official Canadian policy of multiculturalism, as it is a leftover vestige of the British tradition.
Do you have a question? Ms. Maloney?
Coming. And so perhaps most significantly, the term is also in opposition to the official federal policy, which all municipalities are expected to honor, of respect for Indigenous residents. So my question is, could council consider, as other municipal councils in Canada have already done, discontinuing the use of the honorific Your Worship, given that it's not consistent with our present day philosophies?
I see it very consistent in all of the colleagues throughout the Lower Mainland. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate the comments.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Just as an FYI, in Australia, it's Lord Mayor. They refer to everybody the mayor. No. No, don't do that.
So it's Leslie Hannigan, 1065 Thompson. So I hate to bring it back to the Ravenswood Forest, but I have a question about it.
Sorry?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's about the Ravenswood Forest again.
Okay.
So it was started up because my son goes to school overseas and came home at Christmas and was equally kind of floored at the forest being gone and like a little cynical, considering he thought that the forest was gone and the big hub is here with no parking. So I told him that I'd talk to you, and you said you were equally surprised when you saw the forest come down, the mayor was, and it'd be entirely the decision of the staff. Thank you for the work you've done for me, because I still didn't understand, so I asked for a Freedom of Information request, and thank you, you guys, these two were great. So in it, I asked for the bids that were submitted for the work that was involved in cutting down the forest, the communications between the staff and the council regarding that, and the correspondence regarding the parking plans for the new hub. And so within the info I was given was an estimate given by the logging company dated May 26, which was only for the removal of the approximately 50 hazardous trees. So that was the estimate back in May from the arborist report. There were no other companies that had provided any estimates, and the amount was about $17,500, I think. So then I requested the actual invoice and the correspondence concerning the change in the scope of the work, like who had communicated that to the logging company that the thing's going to be clear cut, and the work requisition that had taken place, like where was that written down? And my response was, please be advised that I have provided all records in response to your request. I can inform you that the final cost for the tree removal done on the public land at Ravenswood and Sunnyside was $21,875. So my question is just like, why isn't there an invoice? Like, where is the paper trail for the taxpayers' money? Can the staff or the chief administrative officer actually make these decisions independently and with, like, is it verbal or what? You know, I just want to understand, because that was really a big thing in Anmore. You know, like it was pretty shocking, and you know, it's concerning because, like, I come up and I see, you know, a pretty big modern looking hub, and I see a forest gone and a potential 7,000 plus development that could happen, and I don't know if Anmore is going to stay the same, you know, the same little gem that we think it is. But regardless of that, I'm just wondering, like, why isn't there an invoice and any communication about that forest?
Thank you. Through the mayor. So there is an invoice, so I'm not sure if there was a miscommunication. I think perhaps Michelle had sent you the final, but there is an invoice, and she's raising her hand, so she might have something to add to that.
Through the chair, I'd just like to say that there is an invoice and it wasn't included because it wasn't part of the scope of the original request, but as a courtesy, I provided the final number.
Okay, that's kind of bizarre.
We couldn't hear you, sorry.
So can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so as the request for invoice was not part of the scope of your original request, so I couldn't provide that record to you. However, as a courtesy, I provided the total, but there is a record of the invoice.
Oh, so it is written. Okay. Was there any correspondence? Like, I still didn't understand who changed that scope of work and how that was communicated to the logging company.
And I don't have anything further to add to my previous statement that I provided all records that were requested.
So we don't know how it was changed? Like,
Well, I think we did discuss it. It was discussed a few times, and that was a decision made by staff at the time due to circumstances as they evolved.
right. But it was verbally given to you from you to the trucking company or the logging company then?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I would have to check with my operations superintendent and his staff. I know that there were 2 members of our public works staff who directly worked with this contractor and the contract and the tree removal. I was not directly involved in it, so I would not know exactly what discussions took place, but I do know that Ms. Shell would have done a thorough search and asked those individuals for any records, so they would have been provided if there were any records.
So my assumption is that it was just a verbal thing between people.
I can't answer that, but I'm happy to reach out to our public.
Yeah, if you could, because that was part of the original request.
So if there were any records, they would have been provided. So that would mean that there are not any records.
Right. So for them to have found out if there's no records, it must have been verbal, because how else would they know?
Again, I can't speak to what did or didn't occur and what somebody else decided or not decided or conversation that they had, but I'm happy to connect with my staff on that.
Or I could talk to the logging company and find out how they discovered that they were supposed to clear cut this thing.
Absolutely. If you'd like to do so, you are most welcome to reach out to them.
That's very odd. Thank you.
Anmore. I have basically 3 questions. The first 2 questions pertain to the master plans for Spirit Park. Question number 1. It appears to me that the parking lot plans put 3 existing dogwood trees in the line of fire. These dogwood trees are protected trees. It is in fact illegal to cut them down or alter them in any way because they are provincial trees. So what does the village actually have planned for them? Are they in the line of fire, or are they, is the parking lot being?
That's just a concept drawing. There's nothing definitive there.
Well, I suggest you revisit the concept and revisit the fact that the dogwood tree is protected. It also doesn't seem to make sense to plant trees and then cut them down 10 years later. Second question, are there any plans for a bike rack or 2 at or near the hub? To my mind, it would certainly encourage people to reduce their carbon footprint if they can safely store their bikes at the hub or Spirit Park for events or meetings or whatever. Thank you. My third question pertains to SD 43 trips to China. Has the mayor ever accompanied his spouse? This is public. This is
Discussing it. So do you have another question?
the school trustee.
I'm asking you.
This is for the public record.